Hey everyone, it's Julia again. The camera cut out. It's only doing videos for 7 minutes. I just spent an hour researching it to try and figure out why it's so filled with stuff when I haven't used it. I think I need a separate storage device. Anyway, so I was at the point in my trip where I'm on Highway 64 West and I almost run into the two little dogs that cross the street. So I veer out of the way and then I stop on the side of the road and I catch my breath for a minute and I open my van side door and I see there's a couple sitting out on their farmhouse and I say, do you know anything about these dogs? And they said they think they're strays, that there's a lot of strays there, that people just drop off their dogs there. So I sat down in my van and I thought, okay, wait a minute, am I going to rescue one or two of these dogs? Is this the part of the trip where I'm supposed to get a new dog? Like, I didn't feel like I was quite ready. And I sat there and I said, of course you got to go try and rescue these dogs. That's all you do is watch rescue videos. They need someone to rescue them right now. You were here with the van. You almost ran over them. You've got leashes and treats. So I grab the leashes and the treats and I run over and I see that the one black dog is walking off, but the other little dog is waiting there. And the black dog turns around and looks at the other little dog like, come on. And she wouldn't go and he just went on. So I leaned down and I said, hey girl, come here. Come here, girl. And she came right to me and she was panting and she had the leg. And so I put a leash on her. I gave her treats and water. And then I brought her over to the shade. And the rest of the story goes from there. I've got 5 videos on how I rescued my dog Bambi. So that was Highway 64. And from that point, after we spent all day looking for her puppies, her owners, the other dog, talking with the people at the shelter, finally, it's getting evening now, the sun's going down, and we're about to take off. So I get the van going, and we start heading further down Highway 64, and wheel, there's a police officer behind the van. Dang, I just got her up to 65. And earlier in the day, I had already tried to leave, but then thought, oh no, I need to look for puppies more. And like I would drive a half hour west on 64 and then drive back to that town, look around some more. And then I drove out again. I drove back, hung out at the local gas station, talking to the local farmers, seeing if anybody knew whose dog this was. So after all that, finally I get stopped by a police officer. He ended up searching the van and everything worked out fine. He didn't find anything. And this was Tennessee. It's not legal there, you know what I mean? So finally we headed on our way, and I don't even remember where we slept that night, but I remember the new dog slept well in the van. So here I had this new dog. I had no idea how she was going to behave in the van. Was she going to pee in the van? Was she going to tear stuff up in the van? Was she going to be able to sleep at night in the van? Was she going to bark at everybody that came by the van? I mean, for all I knew, she could end up biting me as soon as she got her confidence back. So I don't even remember what happened, but then we were heading towards Memphis, and I kept getting lost south of Memphis. It kept making me go towards Highway 40, and finally I stopped outside of Memphis somewhere. We were so hot. I was so stressed out I kept driving all around, and I'm using up all my gas money, and it's getting hotter and hotter, and I was worried about the dog. And suddenly I had this brilliant idea. Well, why don't we just head north on 55 right up to St. Louis, and it'll be cooler because, right, it's 300 miles north up to Highway 70, right? It'll be cooler than 40, right? Wrong. By the time I was able to get back online near St. Louis somewhere, I realized it was actually cooler on Route 40, going through Arkansas, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. But no, I spent the gas money and the time going all the way up to Highway 70. And one of my ideas was that I would go visit St. Louis, because I did live there for 7 years. And here I was on this epic journey, finally going home back out west after having been in the Midwest and the South for so long. But by the time we got up there, I was so determined to get out west and get out of the heat that I didn't even stop in St. Louis. So it just seemed like to go in was another like 45 minutes just to get into the city. And there were people there I wanted to see, but I just was like, well, I just spent gas money and time 300 miles out of the way. I better keep going. So we just headed across Missouri. And let me tell you, it was so hot. It was hotter than I ever remembered it being there. And it probably is hotter because it's getting hotter everywhere. It's hotter here in San Diego in the last 5 years. So, oh my God. And then at one point we stopped at a gas station and I opened up my hood to check my oil, and there's some kind of fluid all over the van. And I couldn't see what it was coming from. It looked like it was coming from the brake master cylinder. And when I had first bought this van in Charleston, I had paid a guy $85 to give it a once-over, he called it. I was looking for a diagnosis to make sure everything on the van was safe for us. We ended up taking off. He said the brake master cylinder was leaking, but it never was. It was actually leaking out the back 2 tires of the van. The whole trip up to Asheville, up a bunch of mountains, pouring brake fluid out of the back of the van. It's highly flammable, but we didn't know that. We paid a guy $85 to tell us we were safe or not safe, and he didn't do that. So then when I saw this fluid, I thought, oh, maybe he was right. It is the brake master cylinder a year and a half later. No. But right at that moment, this lady comes over and she's like, oh, I have a bunch of dogs in my car. I'm a dog person too. Is this your dog? And we started talking about the dog. And she's like, what's wrong with your van? I was like, I don't know. There's some fluid coming out of it. And she's like, well, my husband runs mechanic ministry or something, where the Christian ministry, the work that they do is help people with their vehicles for free. So it was pretty miraculous and amazing that I happened to meet that lady right at that point. Well, she ended up, we met up with her husband, and he ended up taking a good look at the van, and it turned out it was power steering fluid that I had overfilled, and when the van heated up, it expanded and spilled out onto everything. That's also highly flammable, so that wasn't good. But at least I didn't have a major vehicle issue. And by taking the time that mechanic ministry did, they allowed me to, even though it didn't end up being a big problem, it eased my mind as to that there wasn't a big problem. So that was good. And then Bambi and I, after that delay, were on our way. But no, there was a major accident and traffic jam. So then we had to pull off the highway again. And we're like sitting in the van, dying in the heat. We got 3 fans running, and we're waiting under this underpass for the traffic to blow by. Finally it did, and we took off. And basically we blew through Missouri because it was just too hot. This video is getting ready to end, so I'm going to let you go, and please watch video number 3 for the rest of the journey. Thanks. Bye for now. Rawr.